So, an old friend of mine reaches out to me and says, Tom, I'm starting a podcast and I really like how you've built your show. And it'd be amazing if we could get on a call together to talk strategy as I start mine. Oh, and I'll pay you for your time. Now, as much as I love being paid for my time and I appreciate her for that offer, I responded and said, I love it, but I have a better idea. What if we did a strategy call and I recorded it and I could use it as a podcast episode? She responded with one word, done, in all caps. And that is exactly what this episode you're about to listen to is. Now, Tori is already a successful entrepreneur as the owner and the creative director of a content marketing agency called Camelot Creative Co., which is essentially her one-woman media shop that produces content and provides strategy in the luxury real estate space. Now, she's looking to build a podcast from scratch to scale her experience, ideas, and curiosity to help other like-minded creative entrepreneurs. And before the call, I had her send me an outline of what she wanted to cover in the call. And this is it. Name of the pod, intro bit for the pod, bio about statement, the artistry and process, and growth strategies for the pod. Now, that's exactly what we explore and much, much more. And listen, you know when I have a friend that wants to build their own brand as a creator, that I'm all for it. That's basically the premise of this podcast itself. Creators Are Brands is the show that discovers how storytellers and solo creators are building businesses and audiences online. And of course, Creators Are Brands is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. I am your host / fellow explorer, Tom Boyd. I'm a creative strategist and I'm just fascinated by all things creator economy. And this conversation is just an example of the type of conversations I have with my friends on a consistent basis, whether it's recorded or not. So you can tell, from the enthusiasm in the show, that like this is exciting to me. I love when people have the guts to come up with an idea and put their own ideas out there through whatever form of content that they're interested in. And knowing her personality and her passion for what she does, I knew she'd make a great podcast creator, and a strategy call with her would make for a great conversation to listen in on for anyone who's interested in starting their own show or rethinking their approach for their current podcast. So without blabbing on anymore, let's get into the show. What I say we do is, recording this is more of just an experiment. We can decide afterwards, one, if you want to cut anything, or two, if we just don't want to air it. Let's just go through what you need to figure out the next steps for getting your podcast started and launched.
Yeah, that's great. I don't give a fuck, so I sort of pick your brain, and if you think it's worthy, then fine. But I'm just grateful to be here and to get your genius.
That is a great way to start this out. That's the only kind of people I want to collaborate with. People that have that as the intro. Let's get started. First, just introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Tori, and I am in Charleston, South Carolina, and I have a business where I started doing real estate marketing, but I've turned it into a more of a content strategy, coaching, marketing, consulting business, and
media company, business,
media
all the
company,
things.
All the things. And I have found this love for writing video and directing, and have been meeting with entrepreneurs for the last 2 years, kind of as one-offs to my business. And in those meetings, in those strategy sessions, I'm calling them, I've realized that all of the entrepreneurs have the same questions. And the questions tend to be this, I've kind of lost this passion, and they don't start it that way, but it always ends up being, I'm so reinvigorated, I'm so excited, I'm so re-inspired and motivated to continue to pour information out about my business. And so what I realized is that these questions are all the same. Why not start a podcast where I'm kind of addressing those common questions while also having conversations with other creatives? Because most entrepreneurs have no idea who they need to hire and why. They just don't have that. They don't think that way. And the really successful entrepreneurs tend to think very black and white, whereas in our artist brain, we're so gray. And I think what is frustrating for me is that, one, that means we tend to not be making as much money, which that's a whole nother conversation. But two, we're not thinking in terms of, let me go after and show you how I can help you. We're thinking about the craft. We're thinking about the process. We're thinking about the craftsmanship and the process. And I'm kind of 1 foot in one and 1 foot in the other. And so my idea for this podcast is, let me talk to creatives like you, other, video makers and directors and photographers and color people that do color correcting and just talk to them about their process. And then if somebody's listening and can say, that's what I need, I can kind of either be the one to help introduce them or help them be connected, because it's going to help them with their business. So that's a really long-winded answer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of directions that you could take it, and I like your focus on, because I feel like you'll probably get a lot of energy from conversations with those types of people. Is that why you kind of are like structuring it around having conversations with those people, because you find that you have the most enthusiasm when you connect with them?
Absolutely. And so I've been calling myself the creative director, a creative director, kind of like an outsourced creative director, because in essence, if you're an internal creative director for a brand, let's say, your job is to make sure that you're hiring the right creatives, you're connecting your team with the right expert in whatever area it is that you need that expert in, whether it's the perfect lifestyle photographer or videographer or graphic designer or copywriter. And as a creative director, you're the overseer, and you know the mission behind the brand and the goals for the sales team. And so your job is to be the facilitator. And so in those conversations, I'm realizing there's such a disconnect. There's so many talented artists out there that they're not the entrepreneurial minded person is saying to me, I just want you to do it all. And I'm standing there saying, well, I'm not the best person to do it all. I can connect you with those people.
Yeah, and it's a real art to be able to see how different people can like you as sort of, you're like calling the plays as like the offensive I'm gonna use a football metaphor, the offensive coordinator. Great. Right? He can see how all the players work together to achieve a goal and get to the end zone, right?
Exactly.
A little corny, but some of the specialists, like, say an editor that edits the specific style of video, when you talk to a client, when they're talking about the business outcome they're trying to achieve, your mind is like popcorn. It's like, okay, that's the editor that they would want to work with. That's where we would shoot it. This is the type of, and you see all of that. So in this podcast, so you want to create a podcast to kind of scale your thinking, but then also scale the way these other creatives think.
Exactly. And I also am at its core a content marketing company. And I believe that podcast content is the most authentic content out there. And if I'm anything, I am a realist, and I'm all about talking to my clients and pulling out what makes them them, and saying, I don't want to hear what you think I want to hear. I want to know what makes you tick. What makes Tom Boyd, Tom Boyd? What are the things that spark you up, light you up? And my job as the marketing content person, creative director, is to say, let's put a spotlight on what makes you unique, because there can be 1,000 other people doing the exact same thing, but nobody will do it the way that you do it. So it's also a desire to create a platform where I can curate valuable information, and whether that's information as in form of a story that's from another entrepreneur, and we're just having an authentic conversation about how they got through that, or it's something that can add value to somebody else's business, or it's through having conversation with another artist or like-minded person like you and I are having, where we say, hey, I love doing this for my people, and there's somebody listening that says, that's what I need. I didn't know it was what I need, but that's what I need.
I think that you're the perfect person to start this podcast. I do see another added advantage too, is it gives you an excuse to continue to build your network of these creatives. So as a creative director, when you're piecing together the team for projects, you have people on call that you're like, I can connect directly with her. I got a great relationship. So
absolutely.
Let's get to what's going on. What are your questions right now as you're trying to get this thing going?
The name.
The name.
So the name. So my business name is Camelot, and I don't really love the business name now that I've had it, but I'm also, as an artist, I tend to wallow in decisions, and I've learned to make a decision and stick with it and not have that be a crippling tendency. So I stuck with the name for my marketing company, Camelot, and it's started with real estate. So Camelot made a lot of sense. Now, I want the podcast to be more about my way of thinking and my connections and me being the curator of the content. And so I wanted to be much more me and less a extension of that, but maybe have that be where I filter through and monetize it. So I don't hate the idea of connecting it, but also at the end of the day, I like it being separated for that reason. So I've come up with a few names.
Let's go.
And yes, and one of
I'm
the
excited.
original names, one of the original names was The Root of It All.
Okay.
And
I like it.
I like the idea of eventually doing different extensions of Rooted. So Rooted Media, Rooted Radio. I really, really, really like the idea of thinking big. And so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity within that. And so if I name the podcast The Root of It All, the meaning comes back to what it is. I'm talking about what makes an entrepreneur and a brand the brand. What are the stories behind it? And also, we're all connected, meaning if I'm connecting entrepreneurs with artists and we're sharing stories and we're being vulnerable and we're helping each other, ultimately that's what, I saw this quote. It was, when the roots are deep, there's no reason to fear the wind. And I think in business, that's what it's all about.
I'm with it. No. I'm don't.
I'm
don't
putting
take,
a lot on you.
No.
I gotta get a lot out of this time, Tom. I don't always get an opportunity to.
I like that direction, and the meaning behind it for naming it. Now, I'm curious of the others, so I can kind of factor it in and give my feedback.
Okay, well, the other one was Tori Talks.
Yeah.
Kind of playing off of TED Talks, because ultimately, again, I'm goofy, so the content's gonna be goofy.
Yeah.
And TED Talks are kind of these inspiring short stories, and Tori Talks would be inspiring, creative, whatever. And then I also thought of Golden Hour.
Okay.
So it's Golden Hour, Tori Talks, and The Root of It All, or Rooted Radio.
This is what I would say. This is my first instinct. One, because I saw your questions and immediately I wrote. So I can tell you my way of thinking on this too. So I wrote Tori should be in the name.
Okay.
Tori is a good name. It's like
Thanks.
It like shows up.
Tell my
well.
parents you said so.
It shows up like it's good for like the look of it too. I think that with like your face on the cover. I think
Yes.
Tori Talks, and I think this is what you can do in the future. Like say Rooted Media becomes like the platform, right? Then you can just put powered by Rooted Media like underneath or something like that.
I like that.
So there's an extension of like that meaning that you were talking about. Since you are so versatile, and I think that it should your name should be in it because you are building it around like your connections, your vision, your way of seeing how brands should execute these ideas. I think Tori Talks would be my vote. Some iteration of that.
Okay, because there's also Tori Talks. I like that.
You got more?
No, I like that. I like that.
I think I'm seeing like Tori Talks big on the left side, your
Yes.
face on the right side, maybe a little description, or maybe like powered by Camelot for right now, like
Yes.
a Camelot production,
Yes.
something like that. That sets it up for you to be able to do like solo episodes. You could take
Yes.
3 questions that you get a lot and just do like a 10-minute like mini show, and it's like
You're so
built
right.
around. It's built around you as the host, you as the talent. I like it.
and I like that too, because the other thing that I learned kind of the hard way is, well, I want to practice what I preach. And when I have clients that are in service-based industries, I'm constantly reminding them that people are going to, word of mouth is always the best marketing. And so if people remember my name, but then all of a sudden they have to remember a podcast name and a marketing company name, I think we're asking too much of them. So what I like about sticking with my name in it is if they're like, wait, I met this girl named Tori. She said she had a podcast. All of a sudden it's just
and
easily.
then another brand and another brand.
Yeah.
I think that's the direction. Tori in the name. I don't know if you want to brainstorm a couple iterations of that, but Tori Talks it's funny. I had a series called Tom Talks a while ago, and I literally changed the logo of TED Talks and put Tom in the font of the TED Talks, and had the music in the background. Maybe I like the Tori name because it's close to like the TO. I can relate to it.
Yes.
Okay, so the next. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I like Tori Talks.
Yeah, what was holding you back? Like, is there anything that any like reservations that you had about it, like when you were coming up with names?
Well, I think that I love how you always say you don't have to be you say I'm the most curious, I'm the most passionate. I don't consider myself the expert, although I think you are. That's why I'm sitting here having a conversation with you. But my point is, I think it's really important to keep in mind that my intimidation factor with using my name is that I'm following a intense passion and curiosity for my industry and for the other artists. And I think it's really important to constantly remind myself, because there's moments where I'm like, who the fuck do I think I am? I am not the expert. And I don't really believe that you can be an expert in marketing because it's constly changing.
Right? I totally agree with you. If you think that you have it figured out, you don't.
It's almost like scary if somebody's like, oh, I'm an expert marketer. And I have that in my bio on my website. And every time I see it, I cringe. But I'm like, I know it's what people want to see and want to hear.
I'm not mad at that because you're trying to communicate like what it is that you can bring to the table for people, like because it is to most people, to 90 like majority of the people, it is expert insights that like they don't have about the industry. Sometimes as creatives, we don't like to gloat about ourselves. It's like it's easier for other people to brag about what we got going on. So you're thinking like, oh, if I put my name in it, is there like some imposter syndrome there where it's like, who am I to be putting my name like next to? Well, who aren't you? You're producing it. It's your ideas. You're connecting with the people. You're making all the content to push it out. Like who are you to not put it in, right?
And also don't fucking listen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the beauty. People, what I find, and I think I'm even more recently, I am like all in on the world of podcasts. It's
same.
Because the way a listener, like if I listen to a podcast and I don't like it, I just literally just don't consume it again. So that's why you find that people that are consuming it, like they're spending 25 minutes with you listening, they're into it.
That's right. It also, what I like about Tori Talks is I have realized that the podcasts that I listen to the most are the ones where they take the time to talk about the topic that they've promised you that they're going to talk about, while adding in flair and personality. And I think that when it comes down to being an entrepreneur, what I find the most through doing my strategy sessions, which I only like doing because it's basically on the job research for me for the podcast, because the questions that they're asking across the board, they're the same. But what it comes down to is they say, I know that I need to do this. I just don't even know where to start. And I don't know how to get myself to where I want to be with sharing what my value is. And I think it's so important to remember that there's these people on the other side that are so overwhelmed with information. And if they see me as an authority and a resource, and it's free and it's entertaining, I think it's a win-win.
Absolutely. And in the process, you can, depending on the episode, be like, hey, like this is what I do all the time. I say, this is a topic that I'm exploring. Like, I know more than I did 5 months ago. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but like, I know this is what I've learned. And, and like my favorite thing is like I know a couple people that are like doing well in certain formats of content, and they're making newsletters about it, they're tweeting about it, and it's within the last year that they've started to have the success. Well,
Yes.
I'd much rather read their content than someone that blew up 10 years ago, because the
Right.
platforms are entirely different. So like for
Amen.
that's the beauty of what you're doing. Like, you're talking to people that are like out here now, cooking,
Yes.
figuring out, and you're almost like a sideline reporter saying like, hey,
Yes.
what kind of videos
Yes.
you making now? Right?
Yes. Yes.
Like we're
Yes.
sideline reporters. We're,
Yes.
we're not the
Yes.
analysts.
I love that. I love that. And again, it comes back to me saying that I have this passion for what I do. And I have this passion for, like, when I meet a new photographer, I'm like, what do you love to shoot? Don't tell
Yeah.
me what you charge. Don't tell me what you can do, what your availability is. What do you love to shoot? Because I know the second I put them in a scenario where it's not what they're passionate about, everything just feels
Yeah.
off. And I'm like, this isn't working. And especially because I work primarily in real estate with real estate agents creating content around luxury real estate, and I've gone away from that. I've found that, like, I've brought in some really talented wedding videographers and photographers, and I've pulled my real estate photographers into some lifestyle content. And there isn't, when an artist is really good at one thing, they're not going to be horrible at the other, but it's not what they're the best at, what they're passionate about. And when an artist feels like they're not good, it just, everything kind of falls out of place, and it's a recipe for disaster. And we make it work often because in business you have to.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, if we could find the people that are best suited for each category, I think you're way better off.
I totally agree with you, and that brings us back to this show that you're creating. Like, there's
Yes.
a clear curiosity around this,
Yes.
and I put that down as like, I think one thing, there's this stat out there that that I think it's, what is the stat? It's like 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3, and then
Oh.
of those, like, only like 1% make it to like the 21 episodes, right? Like past 20. So
Mhm.
I think the reason being is that people overproduce at the beginning. They overcomplicate. They try to do all the fancy fun things that all of their favorite podcasts do, instead of
Right.
starting small and
Right.
iterating. And the way I see it is like, let's take it 10 episodes at a time. What do the
Yeah.
first episodes want to look like? And I call it focus grouping. You're not only focus
Okay.
grouping what the audience wants, you're focus grouping what you want, right? So after those 10 episodes, you might say, hey, maybe these types of people, like, I interviewed 10 people, these 3 conversations were the best. What was the consistent thing about this? Why did I show up better in those conversations? Like, what made that? And like, then you take that feedback and you add it to the next 10 episodes. And maybe that's the point where, like, you start adding more things to the production process because you've started to get your creative flow down. So, like,
I
at
love
the
that.
beginning, everyone wants to do podcast notes, shorts, all of the things, like crazy intro, crazy outro. Like, maybe the first 10 episodes, there's no intro, there's no outro, there's no clips, there's no podcast notes, and then after 10 episodes, all right, let's add that to the next 10. But
Amen.
yeah.
Tom.
So tell me what you think about, like, I think that's why people don't get to the 21, because it's becomes such a time-consuming job to get one episode out.
Amen. Okay, so you brought up 2 really good points. One of the things I was thinking about while you're talking that through is that I love helping people do exactly what I'm asking you to do. I believe that it's really hard when you're in it, so you need the outsider perspective to look in, which is why I come to people like you for your perspective. I too want to be that for other people, and I realize that I believe I need to go through it in order to accurately and best give my advice. I help with the marketing on another podcast, and it's what made me fall in love with it. And we shoot once a month for 3 hours. We do batch recording, and we have it on video, and I Love it. I love every minute of it. I get excited. We're shooting tomorrow. It's a podcast called Between Two Brokers, and they're two real estate agents that talk about real estate. It is so hyper focused and I love it. So I said to myself, if I'm going to be asking for business, asking for people to come to me to help them start a podcast, who the fuck am I to give advice on that when I've never been through it and I've never sat in this seat? So here I am.
Yeah.
Number two is when kind of circling back to our earlier statement about the name. When it comes to marketing, I think another thing that's really important is not only do you need to keep in mind what their specialty is and what they're excited about, but their style. And I think it's really important when you're hiring a graphic designer or a photographer, you're not just hiring them for their craft, you're also hiring them for their eye and what they perceive to be important and what they like. So for example, if you're somebody that is, you don't like I'm a very outspoken, say what's on my mind. I'm probably going to cuss on set. I'm probably going to show up wearing Vans sneakers and jeans with holes in them and a puka shell necklace. We're not going to work together. So I want people to know who I am so that when I get the phone call, they already know what to expect. They already know what they're going to get and they're excited and they've been thinking about it and I've already done my job. And I feel that's really important as an artist because if you don't even like my portfolio of work, how am I ever going to create something that you like? Because I believe that my style is what separates me from my competition.
So you made a couple of great points. When you create your own content, and this is why I put my ideas out there. I just kind of put my hot takes on certain strategies or just giving out ideas, because what you're doing is you're marketing your way of thinking to people. And then people can instantly say, I want to work with him, or there's a lot of people that might be like I wouldn't really vibe with that guy, and but that's part of the process, and being cool with that, it attracts people that when I work with people now and people do hire me for strategy, it's like they already know me. I don't even got to we don't even got an intro. We just hit the ground running, and because they vibe with you, and what you're talking about is how you show up, it attracts your tribe to you, whether that's your listeners or future clients. Now, how are you thinking about that when it comes to the podcast?
I'm thinking that when I have these one-off strategy sessions, because I'm answering the same questions over and over again, what I'd rather do is I'd rather say, get that information off the rip from the podcast and let's leap 10 steps ahead and I get higher dollar, more intense people, because I think that one, in order to scale my business, I need to figure out, and that's a totally different topic.
Yeah,
but
that's the next call.
That's the next call. But my point is, if these people could listen to some really hyper-focused episodes based off of some of the talking points that we go through in the strategy session, one, I don't believe that it's, they're not going to pay me because they got it on the podcast. I believe that it's more so a matter of, like you said, they know the way I think, and now we can skip ahead and talk about bigger problems and less of the monetary things, because I'd rather be solving bigger problems, which in business means higher ticket reimbursement. But still, I mean, to walk into a strategy session and be like, your Instagram bio needs to be changed and your headshot needs to be updated is so elementary and obvious to me. I almost feel guilty to be charging for that type of advice.
Yeah. Okay. I got an idea. You're going to have essentially your FAQ, stuff that people hit you with all the time. And it's almost going to be your start here episode. Make that within your first 5 episodes. And you can point to that every single time someone reaches out to you. Hey, I actually cover a lot of this in this episode here. Go here. It's like you're, I'm in the process of actually doing that for starting a podcast, believe it or not, because I do get a lot of questions
Use
now.
me. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And I think you're so right, because this is how ultimately, at the end of the day, the money that I put into my podcast is advertising dollars for my business.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm seeing it, as monetizing it, because if I gain a client through this, that's the goal.
And then, this is what's gonna happen. You could then get, this is what I'm seeing. So as the show continues to get traction, eventually you'll get people in the same boat as you, like a year ago or 2 years ago
Yes.
saying like, hey, how do I be a creative director for a media as an independent media company for these luxury real estate properties, right? Like then you'll get
Yes.
consulting opportunities all across the world, right?
I would love that.
Because of the reach of the podcast.
I love that. And you said something to me once that really, you said a lot of things that like, I like bookmark all your shorts and I'm like, okay, Tom. So you said something
Thank
once
you.
where you were like, yeah. where
The
you're like,
account's
okay.
called bonus footage at bonus footage.
So you said, I find people that I want to pick their brain and inviting them on the podcast, no matter what level of celebrity you're at, when you're invited on a podcast, you're an idiot to say no. And so I believe that if I reach out to my dream client and I say, work with me, they're going to be like, fuck off. You're a nobody in Nobodiesville. But if I say, hi, I would like to interview and talk about how you became to where you are in your career and your business and your brand and your marketing, can I create some quality content, put you on my podcast, market the way you think? Isn't that a much better sell than to say the latter?
Definitely. And yeah, you find that people love sharing. You'll get some people that like, aren't down, but like a lot of people love sharing because especially these creative types, they usually don't get credit for their work. And it's like kind of nice to be seen and kind of be acknowledged for some of the projects that you did or your way of thinking or your unique style.
Yes.
So one, you can highlight them. And then, yeah, I think it's just a great excuse to connect with people. Like you talking to someone for an hour, like it might not lead directly to a business relationship with them, but then now you're top of mind for this specific thing that it might be a friend of theirs that they connect you with in the future. So we're still on point number one. Let's get to number two.
Okay.
Let's get to number two. All right. What is number two?
I think I asked, so the reason I originally reached out to you was because I was listening to your podcast and I love your intro segment. And I have picked out a song and I have, but I love your quick little intro. And I listen to enough podcasts to know that a lot of people do different things. And I just like how straightforward yours is. And I, as you can tell, am very passionate about this, very intense, but also am running in circles saying the same thing over and over again. So what I wanted your advice on is how to kind of create a clear, concise elevator pitch for the podcast that could be either in the show notes or the bio or in that intro, which coming back to your earlier point, I kind of like the idea of saying, stop overthinking it, interview a bunch of people, put it out there, and then you can add that back in.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I've already recorded probably like 5 hours worth. Two with guests and the rest solo. And
you just talk for 3 hours straight. I love it.
yeah. I could talk to a wall, but
Yo, you know what's funny? I think about this a lot. This is what I feel. I think there's certain people that have like a gift of connecting with people. Hosting a podcast is like such a wonderful way to put that talent to use, right? But
the gift of gab.
25 years ago, it was way harder to do that. Like you had to like work at a radio station. It was so hard to like actually do that. But now it's like right in front of us. And I'm gonna use a metaphor. It's not perfect, but I'm thinking of it right now, so it's gonna be far from perfect. But like the way. I'm probably gonna have to cut this out. The way that like Charli D'Amelio feels about TikTok is like imagine this, like, oh, I'm good at dancing. This is my generation is on this app. Like I'm built for this app, right? I feel like people that have the ability to connect with people quickly and have a curiosity and passion around a subject, like hosting a podcast is to them what TikTok is to Charli D'Amelio.
Amen.
So I'm saying this for people that are listening. Obviously, if there's I think introverts can also do a wonderful job. Most of my favorite podcast hosts are introverts. So I think that it can work for many different personalities. But if you really love connecting with people and you care about something like a specific topic, you should be starting a podcast.
Amen. Fucking man.
What the heck were we even talking about? We went way off the rails here. We were talking about the intro, I think.
The
intro.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I thought, I was like, "Oh, I like the way Tom's voice sounds." I was like, maybe he'll just do it for me because he can be somebody
You
that
want me
is
to read your
I
intro?
that's what I was thinking. I was like, and then I was
No,
like,
no, no. You
maybe I
got to do
just
it.
I know,
Yeah.
but I just really like the way that. Well, first of all, sometimes when you talk, you sound like you're singing a rap song to me. Maybe that's just because I'm like you have like a good cadence, and
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But my
Thank
point
you.
is, I just was like, maybe it would be cool if like I had somebody that I respect in the marketing creative
Yeah.
space to do the
Well,
intro as kind of like a what, in books they have the like
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
cooler than
yeah,
them give like
yeah.
the what's it called,
I'll
like the
I'll do it, but I'm not cooler than you. But I also think that you
thanks.
should do it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like the preface or something like that, or like the
Yeah,
shout out.
yeah, the
So
prelude or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. I think that you should do it, and I'll tell you how I came up with mine. So
Okay.
I had like a Notion, an ongoing Notion doc of just like what um who I wanted this show to be for. And like
Okay.
like the types of conversations they got. Like I had this ongoing of like start a Notion doc. I don't know if you use Google Docs, and just like
Yes.
one off
Yes.
little one liners about like specific topics that I really cared about. And I also did a whole intro show. So I wrote a whole intro show, and
Okay.
in that intro show that I wrote, I pulled from there like the things that, like I went back and I read it, and I pulled the things that like really resonated with me and I thought that there was an audience for.
Okay.
And then so the intro kind of like it started longer. It's getting shorter and shorter. Now I just say like the creators are brands, the show that discovers how storytellers are building brands online, or like just or a version of that, right?
I love it.
Yeah, a version of that. I'm actually in the process of kind of iterating it. I'm going to start saying something to the effect of like how solo creators are building one person media companies. Something of that. Like I'm tightening it up even more.
Yeah.
Because that's what I realize gets me excited. So there's this whole vast sea of quote unquote creators. So I realized
Mm-hmm.
more recently I have a more of a curiosity around like people that are able to build these like course companies. It's just like them and their husband, and they're
Yeah.
like making
Yeah.
100,000 a month. I'm like, that's way cooler than like Dude Perfect or like the biggest YouTubers in the world where they had to hire
Yeah.
these 40-person teams. I'm like, that seems exhausting. I
Yeah.
like. Go ahead.
Well, you bring up a really good point. The part of what the root of it all stemmed from, no pun intended, was
Mhm.
that everything is fucking exhausting. Work is exhausting. Whether you're the most passionate person in the world with the best job in the world, waking up every day and doing what you love can be exhausting.
Oh
But what
yeah.
keeps you going is the passion and the curiosity. And so I believe that when you find something that you can make money doing, but that you're extremely curious about and passionate about, that's the perfect storm of value that you can add to your client. And so, because like today, I literally sat down in this chair before this interview and had been at a 3-hour long photo shoot and was like like crazy person, but I had a smile from ear to ear. Literally, like my cheeks hurt because the whole time I was doing all of it, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. I can't believe, like, you know.
Yeah, and then we had to troubleshoot because the
Yes.
Riverside wasn't working for 40 minutes, but we still had the
Yes.
energy coming into the podcast.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
this is what I would say for the intro. So then I kind of like brain dumped. What I would say is brain dump. Just write, however
Okay.
you write, pen to paper,
Okay.
on
Okay.
your computer, whatever. Just brain dump
Mhm.
like what you want the show to be, and then I would find 3 things that supports like the show. Like so, I think one would be something around rooted in your passions. I like those words, like some sort of
Okay.
rooted in your passions, like something about connecting creatives with, or like something about the creative
Yep.
side, and then something about like the business company side.
Okay.
Those are 3 good elements that would support sort of like the theme of the show. That is, when I listen to the intro, I know exactly what this host cares about.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think that you're exactly right. And I know where I need to go with that. And at the end of the day, I don't really want to have this stiff business podcast, because the podcasts that I really like that are business related, that's what I like about yours, is if this person on the other side is sitting there and they're like, this is what you need to do. First of all, we said it out of the gates with this interview. Marketing changes. Like, my advice that I gave 6 months ago is different than I give today, and it will change in 6 months from now. So it's more about reframing and being inspired and reinvigorated and excited in the strategies that are being attached to the tools that we have right now. So there's a little bit of longevity, but more so than anything else, it's about being entertaining, because if somebody's brushing their teeth and putting their makeup on or walking their dog or, whatever. Because like when I listen to podcasts, depending on the podcast is when I do it. Like when I'm getting ready in the morning, I need to get amped up. That's when I'm listening to yours. If it's Sunday and I'm sitting by the pool, I'm listening to Girls Gotta Eat, and it's about sex and dating and relationships,
So I think your intro, like, and you can always iterate it. Like, that's part of the process too. I'd say like brain dump, come up with 3 things that are like the most important tenets of like what these first 10 episodes are going to be for you. And say like, welcome to Tori Talks, the show that I like talking about, the show that like giving the show a little bit of personality, because you're obviously the personality. I did that. I kind of came up with like a tagline for my show that I'm not public about. It's kind of like, I kind of gave it like, I wanted to give my show a little bit of personality, like what it stood for. So I said that I have it on my whiteboard. It says "Creators Are Brands" is the spokesperson for the solo creator. So the spokesperson is someone that like looks out for, right? Like won't let this person be taken advantage of. Yeah, the advocate for it. Just like, I'm gonna give you like the best of my knowledge, like the best information that I got, right? Like,
you're doing a great job.
Out for you. Yeah, and
I love it.
But I thought that was like, that's like too corny to say. It's almost too like cocky to say a little bit. Like, I'm the spokesperson, but like I want the show to have that personality, and then like I'm the host, right? I'm the one that brings that to life.
I love
so
that.
You can have something like that too. Maybe Rooted is your behind the scenes tagline for what it is, right? It just might not like that quote that you said, the deep roots. You can say that every now and then, but if it doesn't have a good ring to it, you might not need it in the intro.
Yeah. Well, I love that. You're so spot on. I also think that when it comes to what that list is and who I'm helping, I almost feel like I'm speaking to myself 2 years ago when I started my business, because so much of what I've done over the last 2 years has been trial and error. And then when it comes to the people I'm helping with marketing, they're people that have been in business for a while, but marketing was something that they kind of got away from, and so they need to come back to the basics. So I like the idea of also kind of making this like a notes to self type mentality, where I'm saying, hey, this is what I tried and did 10 times wrong. Here's what the right way was. And then also ask my guests that, like, like you're doing for me with the show notes and the intro, like, okay, you don't need to figure it out right now. And you don't need to wait any longer to go live with the show. You need to just put it out there and then let yourself perfect it as you go. The only thing I felt like I really needed to have nailed down was the name.
You can even always update that if you want to. But I do like the name, and I think a strong intro that you can, like, say, like, for the first 10 episodes, this is what I'm going to go with. And then after 10 episodes, you're going to be like, okay, just like I'm doing now, I want to weave this into it. This is more what's resonating with my audience.
Yeah.
And
do you like a podcast that do seasons?
If you do seasons, because I've thought about that. I've thought about doing it, but like not really saying their seasons, but almost saying, okay, I'm going to interview for the next 2 months only creators that are podcast hosts. So like the theme is kind of like, starting your next podcast. And then the next 4 to 6 months, maybe it's people that are only good at short form, like, specialize in short form content. Maybe it's fitness creators next. You could do the same thing where it's like, you could do 4 photographers 1 month. You could do 4 business owners. You could do, you could switch it up if you want to. I wouldn't overthink that at the beginning. I would let that side kind of like reveal itself, right? Like you might see a need to do that in the future. I would just say get 10 in, and like that's like the first set, and then see what you want to do from there.
Okay, and then my next question, it can be my last question if you need it to be.
No, you can. I'm good.
So, do you think that do you think I need a separate Instagram account for my podcast? Do you think that, I know that's a loaded question based on a lot of other puzzle pieces too, because if I were asked that question, I would have some follow-up questions, but as a blanket statement or knowing my business
this is what I would say. I would say if you think that you can maintain it, then yes. I think that this concept has a lot of vertical reach potential that is like way further and beyond than what Camelot is, right? Like you can reach a wider audience with these topics. You can use Camelot to push it, and Camelot, for anyone's listening, it is like her existing business Instagram account. I think that you can use that. It's also people that are like, when they're there, this is what I've learned about. So the reason I haven't done it is because my plate is full. Like I would need someone to help me manage it, but I think it's a great idea. And someone that does a good job of it, her name is Ksenia Brief. She just interviewed me on her podcast. She does a great job of having a separate channel specifically for her podcast, and that's where she does like carousels, like quotes from her guests, shorts, just like an array of content that I know that like I think that if you have the time and the ability to do it, I think that it would be a good look for your show. The other thing, the cool thing of that is the way the social media algorithms work is they learn who your audience is. So like your audience for Camelot, you've been building it over the years, but it might be different than the potential listener of creatives, you know, that would be into so quickly it would learn, you know, if you're posting shorts, who your audience is, and it's going to push to more of the like-minded people. It might get a little confused if you start posting that on Camelot. I think there is some crossover there, but I would say if you can, I would do it.
Cool. I think if I was going to do anything, I was going to kind of merge my personal Instagram into being more podcast oriented. And less personal.
I would start from scratch.
Okay.
That's my thinking.
Okay.
I don't know why. For me, that's what I would do. I'll tell you why. Like this is something that might be good for people to listen in on, is that like when it comes to putting out my own creative work and like me on it and like tying my opinions to ideas, there's something freeing about like my family and friends not all seeing it. Like,
Amen.
Like you can really I feel like you can experiment. Like me, I'm such like I think we all can fall into this, but the opinions of like people around me, like they do like direct my way of thinking more than it should at times, right? Especially when it comes to creative stuff that I'm putting out there.
Or like I have an aunt that will comment and be like, "Don't drive and post," and I'm like, "I'm not driving. I'm in a parking lot."
well, no, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. That's the other thing, Tori. This is what happens too. So we have these people around us too that will support whatever we do. So when I liked it because when we talk about focus grouping, I can't focus group with people that have an existing relationship with me. I want to put this out. Like I don't want these false like positive feedback. Like, oh, great job, Tom. Like, yo, you would say that like anything I post here. Like it like kind of create this this clear example of like a snapshot of like how random people are responding to your content. That's what I did with bonus footage. It was an absolute challenge. Like I built up big accounts before this, and I took a challenge. I was like, I'm gonna do this with no support of any of my existing accounts, and it's actually kind of freeing. And that worked for me. It might not work for you. It might be different. That would be my opinion. It'll take a little longer. The algorithm will learn much quicker who your audience is. The way it works is it's like they're basing it off of people's interests now. So you have all these people with these random interests, and then you're building this thing about creatives. It's better if you build the thing about creatives first, teach the platform what types of similar people are into your content, and it's going to be pushed to more people like that. It's going to be confused pushing it to your personal account.
Okay, and muddy the waters, which we don't want. That makes sense. But
that's my rant.
I love it. That's why I'm here. I think Tori Talks is so easily remembered.
Tori Talks is great.
Yeah, I had so many other like Tori ones that I can't remember, and I'm like, if I can't even remember it, then how would somebody else?
It's so simple. It's so simple.
and it's a podcast. Tori's fucking talking, so let's not overthink it.
Welcome back to Tori Talks. I like it. It has a good ring.
Yeah. Yeah. Tori, I'm Tori. I'm here to talk.
That's the show. Welcome.
Yeah.
All right, artistry and process. You have that on your list.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was asking you about.
That's what I want to talk about in my pod.
What? Okay, if you were curious though, now that we've had this conversation, and because I still, when somebody says to me, "Oh, you're starting a podcast. That's so cool. What's it going to be about?" I trip over myself, and I know as a marketer that I need to come up with my 2 or 3 sentences. And I think we covered this in the previous conversation about what the bio and about and whatever will be. But I'm curious, now that we've had this conversation, if you were to talk to somebody else that you think might be a good listener, how would you pitch it to them? Because I think that will help me coming up with my...
It's... Okay, so who is your ideal listener?
Entrepreneurs that are, I think, service-based, because they're the ones that are managing... Okay, so if you have like a packaged good, you have a brand manager, and the brand manager might listen. That's one kind of camp of people. But that's somebody that's more in the marketing field that finds the content valuable because they're learning and they're entertained. But then you have the service industry people, like your real estate agents, your hairdresser, your creator, your podcaster, your blogger.
Yeah.
Where even if they hire the best marketer in the world, they're never going to be as successful as if they find their groove and they're the ones that are the man behind the curtain. Because, like, for example, most of the people that I'm helping or serving in Charleston are service-based. So they're being paid for the way they think, and they're being paid as a somebody that's providing a service. So their content is important.
But what about... But you want to talk to a lot of creatives on this show.
So that I can put them in touch with them, and so that these entrepreneurs understand or enter... I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking wrong.
Yeah, there's a couple... Like, I think through talking to creatives... Like, I almost think it needs to be... Because isn't there one element where it's, like, photographers that want to, like, work with cool people like you and the companies that you work with?
Maybe my audience needs to be more aimed at helping creatives get more business. But I don't know. Tom. I'm confused.
Because this is the thing. That implies... Right, all right. So say you talk to a photographer that is, like, really good at taking, pictures, real estate content, right? Like they have this total look to it, right? You talking to them, like it's immediately going to attract other photographers that are like, okay, I see that person's successful, they're making money, like I want to know like what he does, like how he thinks about his content. But that automatically applies, like when you promote that show in the title, that like people that are in real estate that like want to take better photos, like they're going to look at that and be like, okay, she knows these people. She talks about these people a lot. I either want to hire him or hire someone like him. I got to talk to her. But like you're kind of, the show is more
or
geared
they just
towards,
call him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and that's fine because there's going to be abundant of people that like it'll attract. But I almost, in my mind, I feel like it's easier to talk to like an audience of creatives than like because the service-based businesses, they're going to have so many different challenges, and I don't know like. So what I'm saying is like through the topics, through the type of people, it's automatically going to be able to like get on the radar of the type of businesses that you want to hire you. Like I'll give you an example. I talk to creators.
That's going to be
I talk to creators. And tons of brands reach out to me for TikTok strategy. They're like, he knows them. He must know how to do TikTok strategy. You know, he knows that world. I
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's the, if I'm speaking to creatives and I'm helping. Sorry, my dog.
What's up?
I'm helping creatives grow their business, monetize their business, put their best foot forward. Blah 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 blah. One of the after effects, or whatever the word is, of that is if brands or marketers are listening, they know she's the one that's going to be able to put me in touch with the right ones. In essence, hire me as the creative director to put the pieces together, to plan a shoot, execute a shoot, write a video, do the marketing, all that.
Yes. Yo, I have to go to the bathroom. I want to come right back.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, I'll be right back.
So I forget where we left off, but I kind of had an idea. So
I
go ahead.
I like what you're saying. I like that you're saying just because. Perfect example. The podcast that I work on right now, their tag is what it's really like to sell real estate. And so in every conversation they have, they present themselves as saying, this is what it's really like. This is what we're really doing. This is how it really is. The after effect of that is that because they're authentic and because they're talking through as the expert and somebody that's saying, this is what it really takes to do it, people hire them because they're the authority. They have a real estate podcast. So it's like, are you going to hire they're creating constant conversation and content around this topic so people can understand the way they think. But they're not just sitting out there saying this, this is what you need to know about the market. This is how you go and buy a house. This is how you market your house. They're being authentic about the conversation. So if I'm presenting myself as somebody that's saying, let me help other creatives, let's have these conversations. I'm speaking to creatives. I'm helping creatives grow their business. Now somebody that says, I need to hire a creative, I'm going to go to her because she's connected to them.
And you could also say there is a company that you want to highlight, and it's like, okay, I want to interview this company, but like they're not a creative. How does this line up? Well, you pick something specific about what they did well in their marketing. Maybe it was their content, maybe it was like a specific kind of video, and you talk to them about that. You say, let's talk to this company to learn about their video strategy. And then the creative learns from that at the same time, because like then you're talking to that company and then you're learning about their video strategy, like how they work with creatives. I do think this is happening a lot. It's like these smaller, nimble, like, there's almost a line there, like a nimble, like these like nimble production crews that you're kind of working with. It's not like huge movie set. It's like three key people that kind of wear a lot of different hats. Run and gun.
Yes.
Yeah, like that could be weaved into it a little bit. It's like 80% on the creatives, but like there is some crossover where like brands will naturally be curious because of the subject matter that you're choosing to talk to the creatives about. I think that it like you will get that crossover business from this podcast, but then you also have a lot of other opportunities to consult with people that are building their small media shops.
I love it. That gives me so much clarity too, because when I was thinking about helping entrepreneurs, I'm like, ugh. But my whole premise is the creatives are the ones that need the help.
Yeah, and you even said it earlier in the episode, the entrepreneurs don't really care about the creative process. They care about the business outcome. You're right. And like they're not going to listen to 5 different episodes. It's just like what's your artistic camera style? Like they don't care. Like they're trying to make money out here. But there might be some that get it. Yeah, I like leaning in that direction. I think that's maybe what you experiment with for the first 10 episodes. Yeah,
I help. Yeah, helping creative entrepreneurs. And here's the other thing too:
helping creative entrepreneurs
find business. I like the idea of helping the creative entrepreneurs, especially because I essentially, as a creative, couldn't find a job I love, so I made a job.
Yeah.
But people that don't understand the process and they just don't understand it. I mean, I get very often calls, people saying, I want to work with you, but I don't really know what that means or what that looks like. Yeah. And I'm actually working
I want to pay you.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what to charge you for. Because first of all, everybody comes into it needing something different. Like some people just need straight up accountability, and other people are like, I need content, but I can't know what they need until I get a little deep down into their business and have that initial conversation. So I'm working through some things in my business, but anyway, you get the point.
So wait. Let's make your intro here. All right. Welcome to Tori Talks. Welcome to this is rough. Tori Talks.
Okay.
The show that helps entrepreneurs land jobs they love, something like that. Like I'm just gonna like write a loose idea.
Yeah. Go. Yeah.
The show that. I'm your host. Wait. The show that.
Tori G.
I'm your host, Tori. You might not even need to say that. You could just say like I'm
Yeah,
'Cause
hopefully you're not Samantha, because if Tori Talks is hosted by Samantha, this would be fucking weird.
that would be funny. That would be funny. That'd be a funny first episode. Just like say your name's totally different. I just like the name. All right, the show that welcome to Tori Talks, the show that created. I'm just gonna say this. We can edit this, right? So
Okay.
I like the ring to welcome to Tori Talks, the show that helps creative entrepreneurs land jobs they love. You can change that. I'm gonna say stay rooted in their values. Like this isn't perfect, right? Like I think you start with just messy, right? You just get like something messy down on paper. Stay rooted in their values, and then like what's another thing? Something about like strategy or process or.
Like I think like running a business, navigating business, inspired.
Oh, maybe the third one here could show a little bit of personality.
Yes.
Like you said, you like the curse. Oh, that could be like a without here, like a without all of the without taking yourself too seriously or something.
Yes,
or something like that. Like
yes. Because I at first I had one of the things I had written down about the podcast is I wanted to be funny, but I think more than funny, I want it to be entertaining.
So I'm just gonna say without taking yourself too seriously as a placeholder for like something you can put there that is like
down
shows
and dirty
that you're letting your hair down. So then the one more thing I would like to add in here, because this is going to be important. What are you, right? Like what adds immediate authority to who you are as a host. So something like, welcome to Tori Talks, the show that like this is the placeholder. Welcome to Tori Talks, the show that helps creative entrepreneurs land jobs they love, stay rooted in their values without taking themselves too seriously. I am your host, Tori G.
I think it's just something about the fact that I'm an artist. The fact that I'm that at the end of the day, I consider myself an artist that has a business, that am a licensed realtor. We've talked about this before. I think it was the first time we had a conversation a couple months back. It's like, what makes you you? Well, I bring in every scenario the fact that I feel like, I don't know, Tom.
So I am your host, Tori G. I like artists. So this is what I learned with my podcast. There's certain things about the details of who you are that you can weave into the conversation, and you'll get good at doing that. But in the intro, right, because like that's what people are going to listen to the most, I want for a brand, like say like they don't want to listen to the whole thing, they do hear it. I'm your host, Tori G. I'm a independent creative director that puts like I'm just gonna say that for now. What would you say Camelot is?
Content marketing, or
I'm a creative director and owner of Camelot Marketing Agency.
Camelot Creative. On Instagram, on Camelot Creative Co.
I'm a creative director, and I think that's fine. And I'm a creative director. Just own it. I'm a creative director and owner of Camelot Co., an agency that helps brands get seen or something like that. Like something really simple.
Become the talk of the town. That's what
Ooh, I like that. And so this is all placeholders. Like you're gonna work on these and go on a walk and like sit by the pool and like you're gonna say, this is what I did. I say it into my phone. So once I had those three like main points, I would say it into my phone. And then play it back. I'd like go on a walk and like, does this sound corny? And then like just like iterate it where I think that it needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
The biggest thing, one of the biggest struggles I have is pricing my work and finding vendors. So that's also part of what the conversations need to be. I'm constantly on the hunt for talented people.
Oh, they're gonna start coming to you from this podcast. So I'm a creative director and owner of Camelot Co., the media company What does Camelot Co. do? Because agency implies that it's a lot bigger than it is. Like, do you want to say media?
I always describe myself as the glue between my clients, the content, the soup to nuts, end to end production. I'm kind of the overseer, the project manager, the creative director. So you come to me and you say, I want to do a media kit. Here's also the other problem. This problem is through doing that, I've realized that it's all well and good to do a photo shoot and create a media kit, but if you don't have strategy, you don't have anything. So I like the strategy aspect and the consulting and coaching and motivating and that element of it more than anything else.
What I'm trying to do here in this part of the intro is I'm your host, Tori G. I want to say a little bit that gives you immediate social proof for potential creatives, because they're like, oh, if she runs her own media company, like she must know about how to work with clients. And then for brands, if she runs a media company, she must know how to work with creatives. So that's what I'm trying to say here in this line. I'm going to make it, we can leave it as a placeholder. We don't have to decide it perfectly. But I think when you say, I'm your host, Tori G, this is what we have here. I'm a creative director and owner of Camelot Co., the team that helps you make your brand be the talk of the town. Helps your brand be the talk of the town. Something of that. Change maybe the talk of the town to helps your brand get seen through because I'm glad that people are listening. I have to sit with this stuff. I can't just, it's hard to come up with a lot of the stuff on the fly, especially since it's your own podcast. It's going to be very personal to really what you want to say here. But I do think that there needs to be a part when you introduce yourself that adds social proof. And Camelot Co. Isn't as an objective person looking in, it's immediate social proof. I think that you should somehow work that into the title that you own this small media shop or something that helps your brand be the talk of the town. And creative director and owner are strong phrases. Artist isn't in the intro. Artist is just she likes to walk around in flower fields. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Even though I am an artist and I want to say that, but if we're talking about creating immediate authority for the potential listeners of the show, I think when you say this, I'm a creative director and owner, something there. We don't have to decide that now. I'll send this to you and we can work on that.
You're right. I'm with you. Hence my being here, because this is hello. I've been.
How do you feel about that? So I'll send you that, and you can work on that. You know what I find too? I like to create the outline for these things, and then I'll be shooting hoops or something, and it'll just click. I'm that's how I say it. It doesn't happen when you're sitting down trying to sort the puzzle out. You need to know what the puzzle pieces are, and then you need to go disconnect from it, and then the ideas start to sit.
Yes. Okay. So the hook, the final thing with all that is, at the end of the day, what I need to decide is, what do I want the people that are listening or that might stumble across this to hire me for? And then that's how I describe myself.
Yeah.
Kind of your outsourced marketing director is really at the end of the day, what I realized is, so I had a conversation with, I'm going to butcher what her last name is, but Jules, you had her on your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was Nestle doesn't hire the person that does a little bit of everything in Podunk, Alabama. They hire the best of the best, regardless of where they are, because they're the best of the best. And ever since she said that, I've been when I'm shooting hoops, which I don't do that, my version of shooting hoops, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, what am I the best at? And I feel my whole life, the only thing I've been really good at is connecting with people and my relational aspect of that. And that's the only reason my business has done what it's done, is because I feel I have the word of mouth and the
that's why every business works.
Exactly.
You have someone that can do that.
Exactly. And so my point is, that was originally why I wanted to start this, because I believe that the word of mouth and the relationships are so much more important in business than anything else. But when it comes down to how I'm going to make money and pay rent, it's okay, I need to figure that out.
Yeah. So what's the question there? You just said a lot. I don't know what you're saying.
The question is, the answer to your question is, I need to figure out what I want Camelot to be and how I'm going to position myself in that intro, so that what am I being hired for? How am I monetizing this? And I'm monetizing it by what I'm being paid for. So if I introduce myself as the best person to help your brand get seen, then brands are going to call me to get seen. Or do I want it to be because I want to be paid for writing video? Well, that's something I'm good at too. That's what I need to figure out.
Okay.
That's the missing piece.
So what I would say is go fairly broad to start, because we are specific already with a lot of the lead up here. You could go very broad, I'm your host, Tori G, an independent creative director that is just fascinated all things marketing and doesn't take herself too seriously. Maybe that's where you work it in. So it's kind of broad. Then you let people, based on the conversations, decide what they want to pay you for.
Done.
Then after 10 episodes, so this is that's what I've seen. Like there's people that want to pay me for stuff like this. Like I didn't know someone was gonna like. I've had multiple people say, "Tom, can you consult me?" And like I have nowhere in my podcast saying I help people launch their podcasts, but I have multiple people saying, "Tom, like, how do I start my podcast?" And they're paying me to do it. So it's like based off of the conversations, your interest, and what you show that you have this expert insight on, people are going to start offering to pay you on. So I would go fairly broad on there to start for those first 10 episodes. I'm a creative director that is fascinated all things marketing, and I don't take myself too seriously. You totally change that, but something that shows like your approachable style of working with people.
I love that. And I think that that's ultimately what it is too, because again, coming back to what is a creative director, like when I stand in front of my clients, they're not models, they're not actors, they are not good on camera, they're intimidated, they're nervous, they have 1,000 other things they need to be doing, but they know that it's a necessary evil, so to speak. And so with creative direction and with marketing, a lot of times I'm sitting there saying, this is something we've got to do, we've got to cover, even though I know you have 3,000 emails and unanswered phone calls and texts and kids and whatever. You feel a little fat, you feel a little gross, your hair doesn't look great, your makeup, you ran in here from 1,000 other appointments. I'm standing here to say, stand up straight, pick your chin up, you look beautiful, we're gonna get this done, you're gonna love it, we're gonna have the angle look right, and directing and helping and encouraging and inspiring, and it looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's more about the scripting, and sometimes it's more about the encouraging. Sometimes it's more about saying, hey, you actually look like a sweaty hot mess, so we're going to just cut all this. And it's time for me to have a beer.
So everything that you just said, I think that you can say that now what you got to do is sit by the pool, or like however you connect the dots in your brain, and take this little outline that I'm going to share with you, and say that in so many words in your voice, and I'll send that to you. So right now, this is what we have. Welcome to Tori Talks, the show that helps creative entrepreneurs land jobs they love and stay rooted in their values. I'm your host, Tori G. I'm a creative director who is fascinated all things marketing, and like insert here something that implies that you don't take yourself too seriously. Something about messy hot mess, or like hot mess, like whatever, like holes in your jeans. Something there that like just implies that like, yo, this is we're going to keep it loose, but we're also going to get some work done at the same time, and that's the beauty of this show.
Can that be
it? Yes. Yeah, that can be it. I'll send that to you. Yeah.
My mom's going to call me and be like, people are going to think you're a loose woman.
That's funny. We got this here. Yeah. I'm going to share that we're going to get 10 episodes up.
Yes.
That's all. That's the goal right now. 10 episodes. Okay. Send them. Put them out. Hit me, like email, text, whatever, like with any questions as you're doing it. Let's make this a success, and then bring you back on the show.
Yes. You're the best.
All right.
Tom, thank you.